Hello everybody, my name is Derek Cullen. I've put this short film together to tell you the story of how I've been treated by Lloyds Bank over the last 3 years. They've lied, they've discredited me, and basically they've stabbed me in the back. In early 2008 I was defrauded by a property management company. Simply put, they run off with the rent take from my properties, and this led me to become in arrears with Lloyds TSB. In October 2008, I was summoned to a meeting with my relationship manager, Mr. Julian Blythe. He was very supportive, and we worked through what had happened and we put forward a plan. We agreed I was to refurbish the properties, and I was also to pay £3,000 into the loan account each and every month. This worked, and within a couple of months I'd refurbished the properties to a high standard, and we were 95% full. However, with no notification to myself, the bank called in the receivers in April 2009. When I asked them why, they quite simply said, "Derek, you've not been paying in the £3,000 per month as was agreed." This horrified me. I knew I paid in the £3,000 per month. I knew how important it was. Now, astonishingly, the bank had lost my payments. I went down to the branch where I deposited, and I worked with the branch manager pulling up the CCTV exactly what date I'd deposited them, and it took them nearly 4 months to find 2 of the payments. When the 2 payments were found, I was jumping for joy. I said, "Right, great, you found the payments, obviously you're going to remove the receivers." At this point I was told that no, the receivers are not going to be removed, but they're just going to keep them there in the background. Mr. Paul Rowan was my local MP at the time. He helped me in this. He was sympathetic. The property management company from Rochdale had half the town. He contacted the bank and basically asked them to treat me fairly. Then the lie started. They informed the MP that there was actually no record of any agreement. In fact, they said there was no October meeting. They then came forward with minutes of a meeting in December that simply didn't take place. Paul Rowan suggested as a way forward that we should sit round the table with Julian, the relationship manager, to establish exactly what was agreed. To my disappointment, Lloyd said this isn't possible, as Julian actually left the company. As a last resort, I took my complaint to the Financial Services Ombudsman. Now, after months of deliberation, he concluded that as I hadn't paid the £3,000 per month, and as Lloyd said there was no October meeting, he said my recollection the whole event must be incorrect. Now, I believe Lloyd's purposefully misled him. We'd already found and established the missing payments. We'd already identified that there was an October meeting and there was no December meeting. So simply put, the Ombudsman didn't listen to my side of the story, he didn't read my notes, and he took Lloyd's side and just said there's simply nothing to answer. So what about the outstanding payment? Well, nearly 22 months later, Lloyds actually found it. With no explanation, he simply said on their statement, "already advised." Now, a suspicious, cynical mind might say that they actually put these payments to one side as a good excuse to call in the receivers. And what about my relationship manager, Julian? Well, eventually, using a private investigator, I located him. Now, I wasn't surprised to find that he still works for Lloyds and always has. I sat down with Julian and he seemed genuinely upset that I'd been treated this way by the head office. I told him the head office had said there was no or not enough notes to establish exactly what was arranged and agreed. He told me there was extensive handwritten notes. Now, he said he was an honest guy, and he said he'd actually find these notes and help me resolve this. Now, unfortunately, a couple of days later, I got a visit of the local police who told me there'd been a complaint made by Lloyds with regards to me harassing their staff. Now, for 2.5 years they've told me he'd left Lloyds. they told the local MP they couldn't sit round the table and establish what was agreed because Julian no longer works for them. And now they complain to the police that I'm harassing him. I visited him once and they put me on a harassment warning. Even worse, I've now been accused of mortgage fraud. They're accusing me of basically exaggerating on my self-certified mortgage application. This has led them to put me onto a restraining order, which basically restrains me from dealing with any of my properties. So where are we at now? Now, nearly 3 years after this nightmare started, I've no arrears on the account. I've continued to pay them the £3,000 a month since October 2008, which is treble what my loan should actually be. I've got the support of the local MP, which seems to be pretty much ignored. They've conceded they found all the missing monies. They've conceded that the October meeting did in fact take place. They've also conceded that the December meeting, which they put minutes forward, didn't take place. And now they've actually had to hold their hands up and say that Julian still works for them and always has. The bank have actually recently said to me that they'd love to sit around the table with me and sort all this out, but they can't do that because I'm subject to this restraining order. They're now using that as an excuse to finally put the properties up for sale. All this from a bank that prides itself in supporting its customers. Now, there are codes and legislation to make the bank treat us fairer, such as the banking code. But there's no point in them being there if the bank can simply sidestep and ignore these codes, ignore the MP, ignore the customers. I ask you, have I been treated fairly? Where is my support? After the defraud, you would have thought the bank would have come back behind me and stood by me. But no, they've used every opportunity to call me a liar, to discredit me, and to basically stab me in the back. Now why? Why would Lloyds TSB do this? Well, from the October meeting right through till April, when you called in the receivers, the interest rates dropped. My loan was attached to that interest rate, and by the April 09 the interest rate was at 0.5%, therefore giving you no money off my loan. Now, I'm sure you'd love to sit around the table and say, you know what, we've done this, we'll bring you back on, and by the way, it's at 7%. What I'd like to know is, since the interest rate dropped from the October meeting to the April, to the 0.5% where we're at now, my loan reduced dramatically. I'd like to know how many other people out there, how many small businesses, and how many individuals you have shit on since the interest rate dropped. If there's anybody out there who is treated like this, please don't hesitate to contact me. Thank you for listening to this.